As one of the few body-on-frame luxury SUVs on the marketplace, the GX has always succeeded in attracting a very enthusiastic, wealthy, and special clientele into Lexus's showrooms. Now, unfortunately for the current GX, it was literally the oldest vehicle in their lineup. However, for 2024, Lexus is finally ready to introduce an all-new version. As you can expect, with the old model being nearly 15 years old, it's a pretty comprehensive redesign. We're talking about an all-new frame, an all-new design on the outside, an all-new engine under the hood, and an all-new interior with all the gizmos and gadgets that you expect for today's modern luxury cars. Now, I already had a chance to drive this vehicle out in Arizona early this year. However, as you can see this week, Lexus has loaned us the ultimate luxury road-going version of the GX called the GX 550 Luxury Plus. And the big question I went and answered, for those of you who are looking for the ultimate luxury rig that is capable of going off-road, has Lexus managed to finally deliver a competitor that can go toe-to-toe with the best from Land Rover and Mercedes? Stay tuned to find out. Hey guys, I want to interrupt this video for a brief announcement to give a shout out to today's sponsor. Now, most of you probably have known this, but I've been doing these YouTube videos for well over a decade, and while it pains me to admit this, I sadly don't have as much hair on my head as I did back in my early 20s. Now, this is where Keeps comes into play because they offer FDA-approved hair loss treatment plans recommended by licensed medical professionals. Now, the other great thing about Keeps is they also offer 2-in-1 options to combine treatment plans to get even more effective results. Some of my favorites happen to be the thickening conditioner, the thickening shampoo, and of course the thickening pomade. The pomade in general is what I use pretty much every day prior to shoots. These products are formulated to essentially make your thinning hair appear fuller, and they are designed and formulated by hair loss treatment experts. The other great thing about Keeps is because they are online, they offer 24/7 support and access to a licensed medical professional through your online portal. So what are you waiting for, guys? Whether you're looking to prevent further hair loss, stimulate hair growth, or simply take better care of your hair, Keeps has you covered. So big thank you to Keeps for sponsoring this video and for the free product. And to get started on your special offer, be sure to go to www.keeps.com/redline or simply click in the link in the description below. That's www.keeps.com/redline. And now let's get back to the video. Now, I've been very excited to get my hands for a full week with the new Lexus GX. So before we start talking about the exterior styling changes, let's go ahead and pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, the previous generation GX was one of the last Japanese luxury vehicle SUVs that still offered a naturally aspirated V8. Sadly, that is gone, replaced by the new corporate twin turbocharged V6. Now, as you can see underneath this hood and this plastic engine cover, you're going to find an engine that also was debuted back in the new Tundra about 2 years ago. This is the company's new corporate 3.4-liter gasoline direct injection twin turbocharged V6. It's essentially having a new engine family called V35A FTS. This powertrain, we've seen it already before in the Tundra and of course in the LX600. It's the non-hybrid variant. However, in the GX, it has been detuned to make 349 horsepower, but the same torque at 479 pound-feet of torque. Now, that's an increase of nearly 50 horsepower and nearly 150 more pound-feet of torque over the old 4.6-liter V8, but it is shy about 60 horsepower compared to the same motor that's also in the Lexus LX600, hence the GX 550 name. It all goes out through a 10-speed automatic transmission, and this SUV comes standard with the company's full-time four-wheel drive system with a high and low-range transfer case with a locking center differential. The Overtrail will also give you a locking rear differential and their multi-terrain select along with an upgraded suspension. Now, fuel economy, you expect it to get better, being that this is a V6. And it's a little bit better. It's rated at 15 in the city and 21 on the highway. That's only about a 1 mpg improvement into the combined rating and about a 2 mpg improvement on the highway. Premium is required for this powertrain. It has a 21.5-gallon fuel tank, and you're looking at around 350-ish miles of range on a full tank. Again, that is on premium gas. Now, Lexus claims the 0 to 60 time is around 6.5 seconds. It has a top speed of around 109 miles an hour, and this vehicle definitely got a huge increase in the tow capacity. The highest heaviest tow models will be the Overtrail, I believe, which will tow a little over 9,600 pounds. This model drops it down to around 7,600 pounds. That's a healthy increase versus the 6,000 that you got from the previous generation. And as this car sits, the new GX definitely has gained a lot of weight. This model weighs in at just under 5,700 pounds. It's around 400 pounds heavier versus the prior generation. I also want to point out, currently as of this filming, there is an open recall on this powertrain on early renditions of the Tundra and the LX600 in 2022 and 2023. However, the GX is not included, at least as of this filming, in that open recall. So for those of you who are looking at this vehicle, you shouldn't have to worry about that now because production of this vehicle only started about 3 months ago. But let's go ahead and close up this hood and talk about the exterior styling. Now, first of all, I love the new look of the GX. I mean, I really didn't care for the look of the previous generation, but I think Lexus nailed it. The design team nailed it in terms of the styling. Now, this particular model that I'm showing you is the Luxury Plus grade. There are technically 3 trims, well, I guess 6 trims if you also include the Plus sub trim within the trim hierarchy. And my particular test car is painted in this really interesting shade called Incognito. I remember when Lexus first debuted this color about 3 years ago on the IS 500 F Sport Performance. It certainly looks good with the lines of the GX. All GX trims will come standard with the company's premium triple beam full LED headlights. You can see it has the LED daytime running light and turn signal with 3 LED diodes for the low and high beams. You can see the Lexus spindle grille is bold and front and center, but it also is really well integrated. In fact, the entire fascia of the GX with the black, satin black accents, with the nicely integrated camera and parking sensors for the Lexus Safety System 3.0. And you can see the parking sensors down here. I just think it's a really handsome, attractive vehicle. Keep in mind, the Overtrail will have a slightly unique front fascia to increase the approach and departure angles for better off-road capability. The Overtrail will also include things like skid plates, which this model does have a couple of skid plates, but not the full underbody protection you get with the Overtrail. Lexus also managed to increase the width of this car by nearly 3.5 inches, and the ground clearance of this vehicle is around 8.7 inches. It's around 8.9 if you guys go for the Overtrail model. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see I love the boxiness of this vehicle, and that's precisely why some people have compared it to like the look of a Defender meets a G-Wagon in a Japanese, skin. I actually think I want to start calling this vehicle the J-Wagon because think of it as the Japanese G-Wagon. But with the new frame, it's the TNGA-F architecture. It shares with the Land Cruiser Prado, which we also get here as the new Land Cruiser in the US. Its overall length has increased to 197 inches long with a wheelbase of 112.2. That's the same wheelbase as the Lexus LX600, but it's a little bit shorter than the LX, but it's around 5 inches longer versus the previous generation GX, but still not quite as long as the LX, obviously, and the TX, which is technically Lexus's biggest vehicle. The TX is about 6 inches longer than this car. Height is around 76 inches, depending, of course, on which trim level you get. Now, with the luxury trim, you also get these massive 22-inch wheels. They're the biggest wheels that you can get on the GX. It's riding on a 265 by 50 R22 Dunlop Grand Trek all-season road tire. The brake rotors measure just under 14 inches in the front, a little over 13 inches in the rear. You have an adaptive variable suspension, but remember, this is a body-on-frame vehicle. You have an independent front suspension and a solid axle at the back with adaptive dampers. This trim, the Plus Luxury, and the Overtrails will come with the adaptive dampers. The Overtrail also gets 33-inch tall all-terrain tires. I'm hoping to have an Overtrail for a full week to test where we can talk about the differences. But you have to keep in mind the ride quality of this may not be as good as what you get from like a BMW X5, for example, or Mercedes GLE because it's a body-on-frame vehicle with a live axle at the back. You can see the mirrors. I love the squared-off look to them with the integrated turn signals and cameras. They are power folding. I also love the fact that Lexus didn't put chrome along the vehicle. They put a lot of black trim. There's a lot of black trim here. I love the square look of the windshield, and you can see this is the only trim in the family to have a panoramic glass roof. It's the dynamic sky view roof where it has the ability to frost and defrost itself. Sadly, that roof doesn't actually open up to vent air. My test car also has the optional crossbars if you guys want to put stuff on the roof. You can see moving around or backing up and looking at the side profile, I think that the square design is going to age extremely well, and it really just showcases, again, a new level of sophistication, but also style for the GX family. Now, moving around the rear, you can see it's got the usual Lexus upgrades here with the LED full light bar with the Lexus spelled out at the back. It's got a full LED taillight design, which is also nice. You have a spoiler mounted at the top over here. My test car also has a digital camera rear mirror. The rear wiper is also still located there, although it's not cleverly tucked away under the wiper, under the rear spoiler, like some Lexus vehicles. You can see there's a GX 550 badge there, but there's no luxury badging back here. So instead you have to look at the wheels to see what trim level you have. You can see this cover is going to cover up the actual toe hits. There's also a full-size spare wheel underneath here. The overtrail will have a matching alloy as well. And then if you want to access the cargo area, you can see there's a little button that you can push that allows you to open up the flip-up glass. That's carried over from the prior generation, but one of the biggest changes this year is the fact that Lexus has finally gone to a conventional tailgate design, so which means you finally get a power liftgate included that's also hands-free. And for this new generation, even though Lexus made this truck bigger, it's actually got less cargo space behind the third row. Now, the third row is standard when you go for the premium and luxury trims, not available on the Overtrail. That's actually only a two-row SUV. But Lexus says there's only 10.3 cubic feet of space with the third row seat up. 10.3 is actually around a cubic foot less versus the prior generation. That's because Lexus moved the third row back a little bit to give you more space back there in the third row. You can see underneath here, there's a little bit of underfloor storage, but it doesn't even really fit the front license plate bracket back here. There's also an actual cargo cover that I had to take out because it doesn't actually fit back here. If you want to fold down the third row seats, it is power folding. So basically you have to push and hold this button. I actually think it should be one touch. But once you push and hold this button, most people who have a GX will actually leave the third row folded down because they are really reserved for just kids. But with the seats folded down back here in the third row, you have around 40.6 cubic feet of space. That's actually a pretty good amount. Technically, if you guys want even more space, the Overtrail offers around 45 cubic feet of space because the third row obviously takes up space. If you want to fold down the second row as well, that'll expand the cargo to around 77 cubic feet of space. Now that's also excellent. That's around 10 or 13 more cubic feet versus the prior generation. You can thank the extra size of this vehicle, but remember, the Overtrail without the third row, and if it has the bench seat, increases that cargo capacity further to 90 cubic feet of maximum storage space, which is actually comparable to the Lexus TX, which is the company's biggest SUV that they currently offer. So now that we're done drooling over the exterior of the new Lexus GX, let's go ahead and talk about the interior, because Lexus, again, made some pretty massive improvements over the prior generation. But before we get inside, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see the one thing that Lexus hasn't updated is their smart access entry key. So you can see it's the same key from all the other Lexus products, and the key itself is like decades old, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You can see there's usual locks, unlock, power lift gate, which is new for the GX this year, and then a panic function. The key also functions basically to have remote start, where if I push the lock button 3 times and then hold it on the 3rd time, it'll actually start the vehicle up, vehicle remote start. There's also an electronic key card that Lexus will give you, and you can also use your phone as a key that Lexus calls digital key if you also have that option. Now, unlike some other car-based Lexus models, I'm surprised to see that the digital latch door handle is not here. So you can see it's a traditional door handle. Touch that little area right there. You can see that locks the door, folds the mirrors in. Touch the back of the door handle, there's a sensor pad there. That's what unlocks the door for you. And then you can see it's a conventional style where it actually pulls out and opens, as opposed to having an electronic latch. Now, you guys also saw the Luxury Plus trim. That's how you know it's a Luxury Plus, is the only trim level of the GX to get the power deploying running boards. And when it opens up, it reveals an interior that definitely has the look and luxury feel you expect from a Lexus. My test car has a great color combination with the semi-aniline full premium leather interior. This is the saddle tan with the two-tone black. The seats are also heated and ventilated. And on the luxury trim, it comes standard with a massage feature for both the front seats. The Overtrail Plus also throws in the massage as well. The seats adjust in 14 different ways. You also have a 3-person memory on the driver's side. And overall, it makes a great first impression. I also love how supple and soft the seats are. Lexus always does really great seats, and that's no exception here on the GX. Now, looking at the door panel, you can see, I will say that the door panel has some nice touches, but it also could be even nicer looking, especially on the Luxury Plus trim. You can see the upper portion here has this curved area where you can kind of rest your elbow on along it, but it is just a soft touch injection molded plastic. It also could be softer. Over here, you can see it's a soft touch injection molded plastic, nice leather over here and over here, along with perforated leather here, and this kind of dark, or this like brown grained material, which I don't know if it's a wood trim material, but Lexus calls it brown grained or black grained. So it looks like wood, it feels almost like wood, but I don't think it's wood. You do have some alloy trim here and alloy trim here. And then my test car also comes standard with the 21 speaker Mark Levinson premium sound system, which sounds incredible. If you guys are an audiophile, I highly recommend checking that option on the other trims. Down here, you can see it is a hard touch plastic. I kind of expected that to be soft touch. You can see there's also more storage. No metal speaker covers, however, but it definitely makes still a great first impression. Now with 8.6 or 7 inches of ground clearance, you can see this step along with this grab handle here helps short people like myself get into the vehicle as I hoist myself in. And then as I shut the door has a really solid sounding thunk, which adds to the impression of quality. No soft closed doors. That's what you can find on some competitors. Now starting the vehicle up, the start stop button is high here on the dash. And because the new GX is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, it starts up in the most conventional way, has that typical buttery smoothness that you expect from a Lexus vehicle. And then you can see all models come standard with the digital display and the 14-inch display here in the center. Now you can see the engine. Obviously it's no V8, but it also has some nice smooth sounds that you expect from a Lexus product. And then you can see, looking at the rest of the dashboard materials, this is where Lexus, again, could have done more to make this feel even more like an $80,000 vehicle. You can see the upper portion of the dash has a soft touch injection molded plastic. This is where I kind of wish that it was leather. That soft touch rubberized material kind of carries over onto this portion of the actual dash where it covers or encompasses the actual screen. More of that alloy trim here. It is soft touch padded over here. And then you can see there's a little bit of a shelf area here. This is actually where you'll find some of the thematic ambient lighting. The ambient lighting in this car looks, while it looks nice, it's a very subtle ambient lighting. You can also change the color to several different themes. I think Lexus's competitors do offer more intricate ambient lighting, but again, if you don't like all that nightclub lighting, you're gonna appreciate how soft and subtle the lighting is here in the Lexus models. And you can see head-up displays included on this trim where it's also customizable. The steering wheel, this is the same new steering wheel we've seen in other Lexus products, minus the touch-sensitive buttons that control the heads-up display. You can see Lexus decided to go with more conventional buttons here, which are actual buttons. This trim also comes standard with a power tilt telescoping wheel. The Lexus Safety System 3.0 is present, where that's the camera that watches your face. You have paddles to control the 10-speed auto, of course, and then you can see the horn. It sounds pretty nondescript, but appropriately sized given, you know, the proportions of this vehicle. And I also like the way that the screen is nicely integrated into the dash. The old GX had a 10.3-inch display that they added in 2022 that stuck out like a tablet. You can see you have a 12.3-inch digital cluster here, which is also slightly customizable. If you start changing the drive modes, you can see it'll actually show you 6 different drive modes between a Sport, Sport Plus, Custom, Normal, Eco, and Comfort. When you go into the Sport Plus setting, you can see it even gives you a nice cool little graphic. It is a little slow to respond. You guys see how slow it is to actually go back to the gauge display. But you can see the tach and the speedometer changes to give you a white outline, which definitely is nice. You can also go to a minimalist view or a single dial view as opposed to the twin dials. You can see over here, the 14-inch touchscreen is front and center. This also houses their Lexus interface system with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can also tap that to expand the CarPlay out a little bit more, but I actually prefer it to use the smaller portion, the smaller-ish portion there with the actual side buttons to go back into the native system. You can see down here, this is reserved for climate. So in reality, this is about the same size as a 12.3-inch system because this area here is all for climate and it is fixed into position. I do like the actual dials that Lexus gives you for the climate control function, where it actually gives you a little screen in the dial. And then you can see the CarPlay is relatively quick and snappy, although as you can see right now, it's kind of lagging. It is very hot outside. It's like in the 90-degree mark, so that's probably why it's lagging a little bit. I also have my phone connected via CarPlay. I'm also recording, so that's probably why the lag, so kind of ignore that. Going back to the Lexus native system, you can see it's got embedded cloud-based GPS, but the GPS is very much a throwaway in this vehicle. It's not like what you get from some of the luxury brands. You can see, go over here into the audio or the vehicle controls. Seat controls is where you access the massage function. You can see going to the massage, I basically just turn it on here. There are 5 different types of massage. It's also on the passenger side. I wish Lexus would just give us an actual hard button to access it somewhere here, as opposed to having to go into the screen every time. It's just kind of an extra step that I don't think is required. Go into the off-road information there. That's where it's going to show you what drive mode you're in, you know, what kind of incline that you're dealing with, whether you're applying the brake and the accelerator. Keep in mind the Overtrail will also give you more intricate features. If I push this button here, you can see that brings up your full 360 surround view camera, which does give you a perimeter scan. That view is a little bit useless, don't love that, but if I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full top-down 360 camera. There's also a camera washer there. And it also gives you trajectory, parking sensors, cross-traffic braking, all that good stuff. Also front cross-traffic braking as well, which is what you expect in a vehicle like this. Your drive mode selector is here, along with your ability to start the vehicle out in second gear, along with the tow haul mode. Your trailer brake controller is here. Remember, this vehicle will tow almost 8,000 pounds. Along with your stability control off. The Overtrail will have more buttons here to control the multi-terrain select. more of that black or the brown grained trim here with 2 USB charging ports and actual 12-volt power outlet. I love the traditional shifter with the manual mode here, electronic parking brake, and then your center diff lock is over here along with your 4-wheel drive selector switch, either high 4, which it's full-time in high 4, or low 4, which you only use in serious off-road conditions. You can see the cup holders. They're pretty nicely sized. There's also a lid that feels pretty sturdy that covers that up. The wireless charger is included with the Plus trims and up, which does a good job of charging my phone. It also fits the Max phones pretty well in there. You can see padded center console here. And then the cool box, which as you can see, I have it turned on. It gets very cold in here. It's great for long trips if you want to keep those drinks cold. It's an option for like $170 on other trims of the vehicle, although it does eat into your actual storage space there. The seats, like I mentioned earlier, comfortable and very supportive. On a longer trip, I had no problems with these seats. They are among the most plush and comfortable seats that you're going to find in the segment. And then looking at the glove box, you can see it's damped but not lined with felt. It's a pretty good size. It goes deep into the dash. And then with my test car, you also have the digital camera rearview mirror, which is also a very nice touch. This is apparently the only trim that comes standard with it. You have a woven material in the headliner. It should have been a suede Alcantara, I believe. You have LED map lighting here. And then you can see this is the only trim that comes with the panoramic glass roof. Now, sadly, this roof does not open to vent air. It does give you a retractable shade, which is really nice on these super hot days where you can close up the shade, obviously, if you don't want any more of the sun coming in, because when the roof is frosted, like I have now, you can push this little button right here. It'll defrost the roof, and as you can see, it lets in a lot more light, or you can also frost the roof. Love that feature, but it's only on the Luxury Plus trim. Other trims of the GX will come standard with a sunroof, just a standard sunroof that opens up to vent air. You can also delete the sunroof if you want on the Overtrail version. But overall, the interior has all the technology that you expect. It has also really impeccable build quality, aside from one little niggle here. You can see that's not quite fitting quite well. This is a production vehicle, so that's very un-Lexus-like. I would appreciate more wood and more stitching and leather on the upper portions of the dash, but everywhere that you touch, at least, feels really nice, from the steering wheel leather to the leather over here on the center console to the padded knee rest over here if your knees are going to hit the side of the actual console itself. So Lexus did, give us some great touch points. It just doesn't have the most impressive look that you're going to find from some of the competitors. Now, moving to the back seat of the GX Luxury trim, you can see the back door does open up a fairly large amount for those of you who need to get a car seat back here. And you can see the test car that I'm showing you has the captain's chairs, which does lower the seating capacity to 6. You can get a bench as well, I believe, as part of a no-cost option if you guys want the bench. These are also heated seats back here, but no ventilated seats in the second row, which is a little bit disappointing. You can see the upper trims will also come with the manual retractable shades. That's also a feature that you couldn't get in the previous generation. On this portion here, it is the same soft touch injection molded plastic, leather over here, more of that brown grain trim, aluminum door handle here, padded leather, and then you can see more storage but hard touch plastic over here. Now, in terms of the legroom space, first of all, getting back here, you can see there's a nice grab handle to pull myself in. This is not where I'd have the seat to drive. It's pushed back a little bit. This seat doesn't actually recline to slide forward and back. But as I shut the door, Lexus says there's around 36.7 inches of legroom back here. That's around 2 inches more versus the prior generation. That is a fairly, nice increase, but you're definitely going to find around, 2 to 4 more inches of legroom in some of its competitors. You can see back here or over here in the center area, there's a hump, or if you do have the bench, that's going to intrude on your space. But I can get back here and cross my legs and get relatively comfortable. There's 2 storage cubbies here. You have your own set of rear seat climate controls. Like I said, heated rear seats, but no cooled rear seats. You should have that, especially at this price point. You have 2 USB-C charging ports, which is nice. And then the armrest here also gives the ability to kind of adjust it, where if I come all the way down, you can kind of put it into a click position. You have some more cup holders and a little bit of storage over here. And then these seats, they do give you the ability to recline the seats. If I have it reclined, this is with it mostly reclined. You can see it reclines a fairly decent amount in terms of headroom space. My head does get relatively close to the roof because of that panoramic glass roof that's also taking up the space. But overall, the second row is definitely nice, and it's comfortable for adults, but you are going to find more space in some of the rivals. But let's go ahead and hop into the third row of this vehicle, because this is where the GX may surprise you, especially compared to the previous generation. Now, to get back here, you pull on this lever down here that folds the seat slightly. I have to push it down again, and that will unlatch the seat, and then it'll catapult forward. This is not good if you guys have a child seat anchored into here. You can't get into the third row, so that's something that you have to keep in mind versus some competitors. But as I get back here, you can see there's only basically 2 jump seat-like seats back here. And I'm gonna go ahead and crawl behind this seat over here. Now, Lexus says there's just under 32 inches of legroom back here. I don't remember what the number was on the prior generation, but this seat, like I said, is fixed into position. It does offer a power recline function, and because of the body on frame and the live axle, you do find the floor is raised up. But for somebody my height at 5'7", my knees are a little bit upwards, but at least I'm not smashing into this second row seat. So I could sit back here for shorter trips. In fact, I could probably sit back here for an hour, maybe 2 hours. The headrests, as you can see, they are gigantic, and that's required because, you know, basically I can reach the cargo area so easily back here, and that really shows you that there's not really much cargo space behind here. It also is a cause for concern. If I'm sitting back here and somebody decides to rear end this vehicle at high speeds, you're basically in the path of the oncoming vehicle. There's not much in terms of crash protection there, so that's something to keep in mind. There are some features back here, which is nice. You have rear seat air vents in the third row and in the second row located on the ceiling. You have a power recline function here for the actual seat back, which is nice. You have a USB-C and another USB-C here. No, heated rear seats in the third row, and then you do have hard touch materials everywhere here, but at least there's cup holders and a decent view from the square roof. So overall, if you actually need to put adults in the third row, just make sure they're under 6 feet tall, but you can actually do so, and that's because Lexus pushed the location of the third row back, but it did, of course, eat into the cargo space. But it is surprising to see that the third row in this vehicle can actually accommodate some average size adults. So by now, you guys have probably noticed that Lexus has been on a huge quest to completely reinvigorate their entire lineup, especially when you look at their truck-based SUVs. And the GX, the all-new GX, was a very highly anticipated vehicle. When I had a chance to drive this car back in January of this year, I was super excited to be able to spend a full week with this vehicle. So now that we finally have the luxury plus trim for a full week, I'll eventually get the Overtrail, I'm hoping sometime later this summer. My expectations are pretty high for this GX. I mean, we have an all-new platform, an all-new engine, all-new design, all-new interior. This thing is new from the ground up, and we have a brand new twin turbocharged 3.4-liter V6 replacing the old 4.6-liter V8. Although technically the engine is not new, we've seen a variation of this powertrain in the Tundra and the LX600, of course, in the Sequoia in the hybrid form as well. And it's a good engine. It's got 349 horsepower, twin turbo V6 paired up to a 10-speed auto with the company's full-time four-wheel drive as standard. So let's go ahead and see what we can get 0 to 60 wise. I have it in its sport setting right now. We have it in basically Sport Plus. We'll just brake torque it. Feels really good off the line. It's definitely making a fake noise when it's in this mode. 6.48 seconds there, which is actually about the same time that I got in the GX when I tested this vehicle. I believe it was out in Arizona. Keep in mind, it is 91 degrees outside, which the heat can affect turbocharged engines, but we are sitting here at elevation, of course, back in my hometown. So that 0 to 60 time is perfectly acceptable. However, I am a little disappointed because I've gotten a quicker time in the LX600. I think that was able to do it in under 6 seconds. At the same time, however, this is the GX. It's technically lower on the totem pole, and it does have less power than the same powertrain that's in the LX, roughly 60 less horsepower. So I think Lexus maybe detuned it a little too much, but of course there is likely going to be a hybrid version of this powertrain coming at a later date. So let's go ahead and see what we can get this time. This time I won't, however, brake torque it. We'll just floor it. Lots of smooth linear power off the line. It actually doesn't even feel like it's turbocharged. 6.9 seconds there, so that's with it going more slightly uphill. In terms of brake torquing, it really doesn't make a difference for the numbers, but remember, 0 to 60 times are not the important aspect of this vehicle. I think that time should be adequate for most people. However, it does, leave me wondering what the hybrid version is going to be like. Is it going to use the 2.4-liter turbo hybrid max powertrain from the Land Cruiser, or is it going to use the hybrid V6 combo from the Sequoia, for example? I suspect probably the 4-cylinder hybrid combo, because that's what we've seen in other markets, and Lexus is probably going to save the V6 hybrid for the upcoming LX700H. But regardless, this powertrain, however, lives up to the Lexus reputation. It's smooth, it's refined, it makes a pretty good sound. Put your foot down, the 10-speed auto is also pretty responsive and smooth at the same time. This is a Lexus and Toyota designed 10-speed. It's well matched to the engine's power band. It just offers quick and effortless shifts along with, a nice linear pull of torque. And it also just feels like it is well matched to the vehicle. So I have very little complaints here. If you guys are coming from the old GX, this is gonna feel like a big upgrade. I mean, even in the sound, I like the way it sounds. I like the sounds it makes in the Sport Plus setting, where Lexus is kind of amplifying the noise of the vehicle to make it sound a little bit more guttural, a little bit more like a brawny engine as opposed to a 6-cylinder. It sounds a little bit more like a V8. But in terms of handling, this is where the GX will constantly remind you that it is a truck. Now, the vehicle that I'm driving is the Luxury Plus trim, which means we have the big 22-inch wheels with the adaptive variable suspension. However, we are still dealing with a body-on-frame construction. We have an independent front suspension, but a live axle at the back. So you are going to notice, of course, the weight of this vehicle. This vehicle is certainly not a lightweight at over 5,000 pounds, but it certainly moves out pretty smoothly and quickly. The the twin turbos, they have very little to no lag, and what you just feel is just a nice rush of power. So you never feel like you're wanting for power. Even though the numbers may disappoint you, the vehicle just has a great feel. I think that's what's important when you're going for a luxury brand, because not everyone's gonna have my little 0 to 60 timer here to test out the 0 to 60 times. But you know what, just for demonstration purposes, I will try it here one more time just to see if we can get a consistent pull here. No brake torque this time, we're still in Sport Plus. Shifts right at like just shy of 6,000 RPM, 6.46 seconds there. So that's the quickest time. Just a shy of 6.5, and that's going to be perfectly acceptable. But I want to go back to the ride and handling characteristics of this car. Now, I'm going to switch the drive mode here into Sport. We'll go out of Sport Plus. This should theoretically adjust the dampers to be a little bit less stiff. And the turning radius in this vehicle is not bad, although it's not quite as big as some other SUVs. In this mode, you can hear the engine is not quite as loud as it is in Sport Plus. The transmission is a little bit more, eager to give up its, or get you more into the higher gear for better fuel efficiency. But what really surprised me about the GX is the ride quality, because, we are driving with the adaptive dampers on 22-inch wheels on a 50 series tire, so not that thin in terms of the sidewall. But I definitely noticed this car crashes over bumps more than I thought it should. And it also feels a little bit bumpier than the GX that I first tested back in January. Now, is it a deal breaker for me? On a smooth pavement like this, it actually rides pretty good. You feel the softness of the suspension, even when you're in like its Sport Plus setting. It doesn't really feel all that stiff, to be honest. It still feels like you're driving around this pillowy, cushy truck, because like when you turn the wheel, you can see the whole body will just kind of wallow about. And that's again because of the fact that this is a body on frame construction with a live axle in the back. It's designed to be a truck and an off-road vehicle. So there's certain sacrifices that you have to make when you're piloting around a vehicle like this. But what shocks me is when I switch the drive mode here into its comfort setting. Now, there are a couple of bumps and imperfections in the road, and I definitely feel the jitteriness. I feel the live axle in the back, where a lot of trucks, you have to put some weight in the back where you kind of smooth out that jitteriness. It reminds me a lot of the new Tundra and the Tacoma. So that's something that could be an off-putting event for people. If you're not used to driving a truck-based SUV, you're gonna get into this and you're gonna be like, wow, this thing rides like absolute crap. But in reality, that's what you can expect from a truck-based SUV. Now, do I wish that Lexus had tuned it to be a little bit softer? Absolutely. I think for a vehicle that has this kind of price tag, even in comfort setting right now, it needs to be a little bit smoother in terms of its ride and just body controls. But on a smooth pavement like this, it's fine. On rougher pavement that I was driving on around my home area, I noticed that it was very, very bumpy. I could feel the suspension kind of, trying to absorb the bumps, but you felt the shock and the rebound harshness coming through the steering wheel, through the pedals. In terms of quietness, thankfully, this is a very quiet vehicle. Aside from the engine that makes a nice guttural noise when it's in Sport Plus, there is a little bit of wind noise above 75 miles an hour, I noticed. However, that's because my test car also has the accessory roof rail crossbars, which are probably creating a little bit of aerodynamic drag. Remember, this is still a brick, so it's not going to be, the most slippery vehicle. Put my foot down in comfort mode. You can hear the engine's not quite as loud because it's not amplifying the sound through the speakers. And then let's go ahead and talk about the fuel efficiency, because this model is rated at 15, 21, 20, and 17 combined. It's got a 21-gallon fuel tank. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged just over 15.5 mpg, which is not wonderful, but it's bang on with the city numbers. On the highway, the best I could do is just shy of 20 mpg. So now keep in mind, my test car only has about just under 500 miles on it. It's not the most broken-in vehicle, but I did, try to drive it efficiently in its eco setting, and the best I can get was just a little around 20 mpg. In terms of real world range, I was getting around 300 miles on a full tank. Keep in mind, if on the highway, if you can do better, this should be able to do closer to 350 to 400 miles of range on a full tank. So I'm premium gas, of course, so it does get me wondering, the Land Cruiser has this, chassis, but it also has the hybrid powertrain. So I'll be curious to see what I can actually get in the Land Cruiser, because the, 16 mpg in this car, 19, just under 20 on the highway is definitely abysmal. It is an improvement over the old V8, but it's still not great. Now, thankfully, the seats are extremely comfortable. So if you guys are planning to use this as a road trip vehicle, once you get past the jittery ride, the plush, premium Napa leather seats are amazing. They hold you in place nicely. They're supremely comfortable. And I'm also sitting here getting a massage. That's something that you can't get in the LX600, at least not in the driver's seat. So the two front seats in this car have a massage function, which is wonderful. So it's a little strange to me how Lexus is putting it on the lower totem pole GX, but not on the LX. I have a feeling it has something to do with parts constraints. But visibility is also good. I can see out of the front, the side, the rear pretty nicely. In fact, the rear, I love the digital camera rearview mirror. Without it, you can't really see very well because of the headrest that'll blocking the way in the third row, but you kind of just can put the headrest down and it'll fix that. But overall, if you're planning to use this vehicle as a daily driver, the GX is pretty easy to drive. It's just not the sportiest vehicle, but it definitely has that commanding king of the road feel. And once you get past the truck-like ride quality and the slightly poor fuel economy standards, at least by modern day standards, this is definitely, a vehicle that I see a lot of people, choosing, especially if you, prefer something that's more traditional, that has off-road capability, that also just feels like a tank. So despite the age of the previous generation GX, it's kind of wild to think, because in 2023, here in the US at least, Lexus managed to sell a little under 32,000 GX models. The old version, remember, stickered for between $60,000 to $70,000. That's what most of them were transacting for. So it really shows you just how loyal the customer base is for the GX, because this model has a reputation for off-road capability, luxury, and impeccable build quality. So after spending a full week with the all-new third generation GX, I'm pretty happy to report that this new version lives up to the reputation that has been set at lofty heights for, of course, the Lexus GX in terms of, the styling, in terms of the capability. You guys saw 0 to 60 times around 6.5 seconds. Should be plenty fast for most people. It's also around 0.3 seconds quicker versus the old GX that I last tested about 2 years ago with the 4.6 liter V8. Which is nice, but it also is still, remember, around a half a second slower versus the Lexus LX, and that's because the LX has about 60 more horsepower. The one thing that does give me pause, however, with the new GX has to do with the ride quality. Now, I'm gonna have to wait until I can reserve judgment and spend time with the Premium with its smaller 20-inch wheels and the Overtrail with the even smaller 18-inch wheels, the unique off-road suspension, because at times when I was driving this thing, I definitely noticed it had a little bit too much bumpiness, something that reminded me too much of a truck. Now, of course, if you're used to a truck-based SUV, you're gonna get into this and realize that it rides, really nicely because it's still a really quiet interior. Obviously, if you guys want something sportier, BMW will happily sell you an X5. Same thing with the Mercedes-Benz GLE. But if you guys are looking at something like a Land Rover Defender or a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, this is where a lot of the strengths of the GX comes in, because obviously most models will come standard with the third row, which can surprisingly accommodate average size adults. Just be prepared to pack extremely lightly if you want to carry up to 7 people in this vehicle. And of course, the engine, while it is powerful and smooth, doesn't quite get the best fuel economy in real-world testing, so I'll be really curious to see about the upcoming hybrid version of the GX. Lexus has confirmed it, and we do know in other markets it uses the same 2.4-liter hybrid max powertrain in the Land Cruiser, so I suspect that should improve the fuel efficiency to around 25-ish mpg. And you should get also similar power and torque figures. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on the new GX, this vehicle has been on sale for a couple of months. Production essentially started sometime in February, I believe, of early this year. And base pricing for this model obviously has gone way up compared to the prior generation, starting at around $64,250 for the base Premium. It is a well-equipped vehicle, and it's a lot of value for money. especially when you look at all the content that Lexus has added for this new generation. Obviously, if you're looking at the old GX, pricing has increased by about $8,000 to $10,000. If you guys are wanting to go up to the luxury plus trim, like the one I'm showing you here, you're gonna have to spend at least 81 grand. The Overtrail, which is kind of in the middle, there's an Overtrail and an Overtrail Plus, can vary between like either $73,000 or $77,000, depending on whether you want the Plus's upgraded features. My test car, of course, with a couple of options that it does have, in addition to the destination charge, stickers for just under $85,000, around $84,900, which again is a pretty healthy sum of money, but also keep in mind that a comparably equipped version of like a Land Rover Defender X will cost you around $90,000. A G-Wagon, that's gonna cost you well into the six-figure price tag, which is where the GX kind of has a unique price proposition. Obviously, for the same money, you could also get something like a BMW X5, which is sportier, you know, just as roomy, although the BMW doesn't offer a third row anymore, and just a lot more refined. But again, you won't quite have the same towing capability and the, you know, truck-like tank feel that you get by going with a body-on-frame truck SUV like the all-new GX. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Lexus GX 550 in the Luxury Plus trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.